Good morning, good afternoon, and a huge welcome to wherever you are around the world, and welcome to this week's session for the LLM sessions. Now, it's brought to you today by University of Minnesota Law School. I've got Cara Galvin here with me today. Before I hand you over to Cara, just a reminder that this is a live session. If you have any questions, at the top or bottom of your screen, you should have a chat or Q&A facility. Please put anything in there. If you are watching on social media today and you do have any questions or any concerns or issues, please put it in the messenger facility and I will be moderating everything from there. But without hanging around too much longer, I'd like to hand you over to Cara. Cara, if you'd like to start sharing your screen from now, we're going to get straight into your presentation and then I'll be back for the Q&A at the end.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much to Gareth and Postgrads for letting me join you today. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Here in Minnesota, it's a beautiful, bright and sunny fall morning. It's 10 a.m. here right now, and we are just entering into our gorgeous autumn season. All the leaves are changing different colors. We have yellow, orange, red. I just went on a hike yesterday, one last time before winter, and it's just one of the many things that Minnesota has to offer, which is 4 distinct, beautiful seasons, all different, all gorgeous. So, well, let's get started. I want to share with you about our LLM program here at Minnesota Law. So the full name is the University of Minnesota Law School, but we go by Minnesota Law for a nickname. So I'm sure many of you know the answer to this, but if you're just beginning your research into studying an LLM, what is an LLM degree? Well, it's an advanced law degree with global credibility. It's kind of considered the global gold standard for an advanced law degree in many countries around the world. It's a master of laws. So coming here, of course, you would be studying US law, and that might give you a wonderful foundation for your future career as you continue with your global legal career of your own. For our program here at Minnesota Law, you do not have to take the LSAT exam. If someone was going to enter a JD program directly, then they would definitely need to take the LSAT. But for entering our LLM program, it is not required. Doing the LLM here in Minnesota does make you eligible for many US bar exams. We have 50 states, as you know. Not all 50 states do allow LLM graduates to take the bar exam, but many do. And I would say the most common place where students will take the bar exam is New York. I think it's a pretty well-known name, as you can imagine. And so most of the students in our LLM program who do choose to take the bar, which is a personal choice, choose to do so in New York. And the length of our program is just 1 academic year, full-time. We do have an option to stay a 3rd semester, and I'm going to get into that later in my presentation. But the typical length in all law schools is 1 year, 1 academic year, full-time. For our program, it begins in the fall, actually at the end of summer, August, and then it would end in May. You would graduate in the month of May. And this is a picture of our one of our recent classes, the last one before the pandemic, the last class that got through the entire year without any pandemic, and that's the class of 2019. So kind of just shows the size of our program and the diversity that you might find in our program. Well, you might be wondering, where is Minnesota? Minnesota is not the most well-known place in the United States or in the world. It's not New York. It's not LA. But sometimes people know about Minnesota because of the show How I Met Your Mother. I don't know if that applies, if that pertains to you, but many people know about Marshall, the character Marshall, and he came from Minnesota. So it's kind of a funny little claim to fame we have. But Minnesota is right here. It's in the middle north of the U.S. It's kind of in the heartland of the U.S. It's definitely part of the Midwest, and we border Canada to the north. And Chicago is just a little bit south, 2 states south. It's about a 7-hour drive down to Chicago and about a 7-hour drive up to Canada. And the star there is Minneapolis. That's our capital city, and that's where the University of Minnesota Law School is located, where our whole university is located. It is a vibrant, beautiful city, and I'm going to be sharing more about that with you as we continue on in our presentation. We've been getting a lot more publicity here in Minneapolis, especially when the Vikings, our professional football team, our US Bank Stadium, which is their home stadium, hosted the football Super Bowl a few years ago. So that was really exciting for our city. So a little bit more about the University of Minnesota Law School in general. We are ranked a top 25 law school in the US by US News and World Report. So that's quite prestigious. There are over 200 law schools in the United States. So being in the top 10% in terms of rank is quite an honor for us. And the total students this year in our entire law school, so that includes JD program, the biggest one, our LLM program, and then we have an SJD, like a doctoral level degree, and a Master's of Science in Patent Law program here. So the total number of students here in our law school this year is at 711. Our LLM and exchange student population makes up about 41 students of that. So the JD is definitely the biggest. And we have an 8-to-1 student to faculty ratio. This is one of the stats that we really boast. Just a lot of personal and individual attention from our renowned faculty. So that's something that you could look forward to here. It's a very conversational atmosphere. It's an open door by all our faculty and by my department. We welcome students' discourse. Faculty love to talk about what's covered in their classes, even debate, whatever you like. So we really want to encourage those kinds of personal relationships here in our law school. And when you're not busy with your schoolwork, you can join one of our 35 plus student organizations. And that's just in the law school. We're not talking about the entire University of Minnesota, where there's hundreds more organizations, but just in the law school, we have more than 35. So any area of law that you are especially interested in, there is plenty for you to do outside of class if you're interested. And this is a picture of our front entrance of Mondale Hall. That's the name of our law school building. And that's where I come in every day. So we would love to see you walk through those doors. Now let's talk about our LLM program and exchange program specifically. We do have some exchange students through some partnerships around the world, and we group them together with our LLM degree-seeking students. And our current class includes 41 LLM and exchange students from 24 different countries. That's just this year. So they just arrived in August and are, several weeks now into their first semester here with us. And that is a list of all of the countries that are represented right now in our program. You can see there are some very mainstream countries and some that are really unique. And we are so proud of that every year. We attract students from all around the world and come up with a very diverse and special group cohort each year. So that's something we're very proud of. And our program here, our LLM program, is one of the oldest in the United States. So it's very typical for US law schools to have an LLM program at this point. Some have even started an LLM program and already stopped it. But our program is celebrating nearly 30 years. Next year will be our 30th year of having an LLM program. And that's something that we are extremely happy to tell you. I would say the average age of an LLM program in the US is maybe 10 or 12 years, but ours is 30 years. So it gives you an idea of the strong foundation that we have here. So we have more than 900 alumni around the world who have gone through our program from 84 different countries and growing. So hopefully you can join that statistic. A little bit more about the degrees that we offer in the LLM program. We have 3 different LLM degrees. The main one, I guess, is the LLM, just general in American law, where you get to decide all of the classes that you are taking. We really only require our students to take one class, and that is our orientation course in August, and it's called Introduction to American Law. So all of our incoming students must take that. It is worth 2 credits toward the LLM degree. But beyond that, the classes that you take with the general LLM are up to you. So whatever you wish, you can, some students like to do a very broad array of classes during their year here with us. Others like to focus in and do a certain area of emphasis of their study. And so with the LLM, you have the option to earn one of these 11 concentrations on the right side, 11 concentrations, business law, and so on. So you might choose to do one of those. It's your decision. It's not required, but some of our students do choose to do that. And it's kind of a nice feather in your cap, if you will, on your CV and on your resume, if you're really hoping to focus your career in one of those areas. We also have a business law LLM. So needless to say, that focuses on business law. It's just a little bit more intensive than the business law concentration that you can get with the general LLM. But the business law LLM degree has just a little bit more required business law coursework. And then we also have a patent law LLM. This is a smaller program, and it's designed for lawyers who wish to remain in the United States and take the US patent law exam. It's kind of like a bar exam, but specifically for patent lawyers, patent attorneys. So we do have that program. It's very small, but we do offer it, and it's something that you might consider if you're planning on staying in the US and working as a patent attorney. And this is the slide I mentioned earlier about our third semester program. So a few years ago, we worked with the ABA, the American Bar Association, to develop a special LLM third semester option. So this is not required, but it's something that some of our students, a handful of our students each year, are interested in for various reasons. So this is a unique offering among US law schools. I'm not aware of any other program that has this offering. And it is just a chance to stay for another semester, a third semester, and complete more coursework. So some students do it because they want to earn an additional concentration. Back to this list that we just showed you a minute ago. On the right side, the white concentrations are the 11 that we offer. In the regular LLM year, there's really only there's only time to earn one of those. But if you stay for a third semester and with some planning from the beginning, you could actually earn a second concentration. So that's one reason why some students might want to do this option. They really want to earn 2 of those concentrations. Another reason is they want to take the bar exam and they really want to stay and take another full-time semester of coursework to help them prepare for the bar. So that's another reason why some might choose to do it. And there's a third reason not listed here, which I think is just to maximize the experience. You know, sometimes students will say, you know, I uprooted my life to come and do this LLM program. I've left my home. Some even leave a job, loved ones, whatever it may be. And they say one academic year is very short, relatively. So I'd really like to just maximize my time and stay another 4 to 6 months and continue studying here while I'm here. So those are the kind of the 3 main reasons why students choose to do this. And the best part is your scholarship. And I'll talk more about scholarships, which I know is a very, very important topic. But the scholarship that you earn when you are admitted to our program will continue into the third semester, no questions asked. So that's something that you can look forward to. So in our program, all of our LLM students are integrated into JD courses. You get to decide the courses that you take, and most of them will be regular JD courses together with JD students. But we do offer some LLM specific classes. Now, none of these are required for you to take except the first one. That's the one I mentioned before, Introduction to American Law, which is our orientation course taking place in the month of August before the academic year officially begins, and everyone must take that course. But the rest of these are just options for you. So we have LLM specific courses such as Legal Writing and Skills 1 and 2, Judicial Observation, which I'll speak more about, LLM Trial Practice, an international moot court team that is specifically for LLM students only, and we will be sending a team to the VIS competition in Vienna. And then an LLM section of contract drafting. That's a regular JD class too, but it's a popular class for every student here in the law school. So we offer a LLM specific section just to make sure everyone can get a seat if they want to take the class. So this is kind of a list of some classes that you have the option to take that you would be with your peer LLM students only. And this is a photograph of, in the middle there with the pink sweater is a judge. Her name is Judge Denise Riley. She's a local judge, and she is a very great friend of our LLM program. So she often will pay us a visit and give a lecture, a lunchtime lecture. And she really loves to get to know our LLM students and take them under her wing. So she's there right pictured in the middle. You can see she's very beloved among that group. And we wanted to talk a little more about the practical experiences that are available to LLM students here. We know that's a very important part, and students are wondering about this. How can they get some hands-on experience during their studies? So these are some of the options. So we have the LLM trial practice course, which I just mentioned earlier in the previous slide. And this is kind of like a mock trial course. It's a chance to really practice your litigation skills in a mock courtroom and just be comfortable with your LLM peers. It's a 3-credit course offered in the spring semester of our program. And it is an on-campus mock trial classroom. So we have courtrooms that are here as part of our classrooms. And so it's kind of like mimicking a real courtroom. And this course is taught by a Hennepin County prosecutor. Hennepin County is the county where Minneapolis is located. It's the biggest county in Minnesota. And so this prosecutor, Heather Robertson, is a very experienced and well-seasoned. So she's the perfect instructor for this course. So that's really a fun and experiential class. And then the judicial observation course is another great option. This is 1 or 2 credits toward your degree. You get to decide. So those credits are variable based on whether you want to put in more observation hours or less observation hours. So if you do the higher number of hours, it's worth 2 credits. If you choose to do the lower number of hours, it's just 1 credit. And this is a chance for you to be matched with a local judge. We have a long list of judges like Denise Riley, the judge I showed you in the picture before, who really enjoy this opportunity to connect with our LLM students each year. And so they have agreed, they volunteered their time to take 1 or 2 students into their chambers for the semester. And it's a chance for you to kind of observe and discuss with the judge the cases that he or she is presiding over right now, get a front row seat in the courtroom on some of the courtroom cases, and speak to the staff and just kind of be a part of the team and observe and see the legal system unfurl firsthand. So this is off campus. It's independently scheduled between you and your judge, and you would be in the courtroom in the judge's chambers. It's offered in the spring semester only. And then you would write a reflection paper at the end. And this is a pass-fail course, so it's very experiential. It's more just a chance for you to see how things are working and then write a reflection paper about it in the end. And if you do the hours and write the paper, then that's a pass. And it's just a really amazing opportunity to make a judge friend. I know that last year, one of our judges actually offered to take our LLM student to the airport when it was time for him to leave, when he was finished with his program and heading back to his home country. The judge gave him a ride. So that's just an example of the kinds of relationships that can be built. And we have a couple more practical experiences that we offer our students. One is the LLM Pro Bono program. And this is a chance for you to assist with real cases and real clients. You would be supervised by a licensed attorney. So if you do our in-house program, it would be led by our professor, Karen Lundquist. And this is a chance for you to earn your hours for the New York bar, for example. You have to have 50 hours or more of pro bono work in order to sit for the bar. Or maybe you just want to give back. You're not doing it for that reason. You're just doing it because you'd like to give back to the community in some way and share your skills and knowledge. And if you do 50 hours or more of pro bono work, no matter the reason, you will get a special transcript notation on your transcript here at Minnesota Law, where it notates your public service. So that's a nice little feather in your cap as well. And also, finally, we partner with an organization called the Minnesota Justice Foundation. So this is not affiliated with the university. It's a standalone nonprofit legal organization. But so many of our students, JDs, LLMs, all of them, work with Minnesota Justice Foundation that we actually have a little satellite office within our law school. So right on site, there's some staff of MJF, Minnesota Justice Foundation. And this is a chance for you to serve the local community in need. Often it is lower income individuals who need legal help, but they can't afford it. And there's also some travel lawyering opportunities. Like, for example, during our spring break in the month of March, MJF might organize a trip to another state or another city and bring a small team of you pro bono volunteers to serve a different community in the United States. Just before the pandemic was the last time they did it. I think they'll be able to do it again this year. But they went to Arizona, which is in the southwest of the United States. So they witnessed and served a whole different community and also got to enjoy some hot, sunny weather in the wintertime. So that was nice too. Great opportunity to meet people as well. Now we're going to switch gears now and talk about our LEAD program. Stands for Legal English Advanced Development, LEAD. And this is an optional pre-LLM experience. So many of our students each year will choose to sign up for LEAD, and they'll arrive here in Minneapolis a bit earlier than their peers who are not doing LEAD. And this is a 3-week course online before you arrive. And then that's followed by a week of a break so you can move here, and then 3 weeks on campus. So it's kind of like a hybrid course. Half of it's online before you arrive with our professor, Karen Lundquist. And then the second half is here in person, where you will be in the classroom working on honing your legal English skills and your essential US law school skills. So this is not just an English class, but it's a legal English and skills class to help prepare you and springboard your experience in the LLM program in a positive way, so you can really be prepared for what's to come in US law school. And then the best part is the field trips. So Professor Lundquist will take the LEAD group to all sorts of different sites here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, sites that are pivotal legal and political sites, and a chance to, tour the Federal Reserve Bank here in Minneapolis, or visit the state capitol and climb to the top and see the golden horses and see where our local legal process unfurls. And it's also a chance to acclimate to your new environment before the LLM program begins. So each year, the LEAD students who choose to participate, are so happy that they did it. They feel more prepared when they begin the program, and they just feel more familiar with their surroundings. So there's so many advantages to doing this program. So I'm focused mainly on the LLM program, but we do have the JD program and the SJD program that I also wanted to mention. Sometimes students will like to consider transferring into one of these programs after they complete the LLM. So the JD, that's kind of the US law degree that's really needed if you plan to practice law in the United States. And students who do complete the LLM here, who want to consider transferring into the JD, may apply to transfer, and they do not have to take the LSAT test. That's another way to avoid the test. If you were going to apply to the JD program from the beginning, then you would take the test, just like all JD applicants. But if you apply to our LLM program and are admitted, you complete the program, and then you decide to apply for a transfer into the JD program, you do not have to take the LSAT test. In lieu of that, your performance in the LLM program will speak for itself. And so students who do this transfer would enter the JD program as second-year JD students, or 2Ls. So your first year is kind of replaced, your LLM work replaces the first year in the JD program. So you'll still complete the JD in a total of 3 years. And you would leave here in 3 years with 2 degrees, the LLM and the JD. Now, if you do transfer to the JD program, even though your status would be 2L, you still need to go back and complete any of the compulsory 1L coursework that is usually required for JD students. So you would be kind of intermixed with some first-year students and some second-year and third-year upperclassmen. You'd kind of be in between. I hope that makes sense. Then we have an SJD, the Doctor of Juridical Science. And this is kind of like a doctoral level legal research or academic degree. I think a lot of other countries in the world require something like this if you'd like to teach law school in your home country. And we do give preference when we're doing our admission process for the SJD program, preference to students who earned the LLM here at the University of Minnesota. So we do have a small SJD program. It will always be small. We want to keep it that way. It's very in-depth research, working very closely with your faculty advisor and working hard for 3 to 5 years, researching and writing your dissertation. We currently have 8 students in our SJD program. So just to give you an idea of the size, and those 8 students are at various stages of their SJD work. And we have graduated 5 SJDs so far since the program began in 2015. Now let's talk a little bit more about our city, Minneapolis. It's just a gorgeous city. That top picture is a real picture of our cityscape at night with some cool traffic lighting. I just love this picture. I think it just shows the vibrance of our city. And we have 17 Fortune 500 companies that are based here in Minneapolis. So like I said, we might not be the most well-known around the world, but in a way, I think we will be if we continue in the trajectory that we have been. A lot of really prominent companies are choosing to base here in Minneapolis. It's a medium-sized metropolitan area. It's relatively safe. It's clean. It's beautiful. There's a lot of nature around. The air is clean. There's just so many beautiful things about this city, and it's very attractive for recruiting employees to these Fortune 500 companies from around the world. So some examples are Target, 3M, Medtronic, Best Buy, and General Mills, just to name a few. I'm sure you've heard of some or all of those. And of course, we have major law firms. Well, we have big and small law firms, but we have some major law firms like Dorsey and Whitney, state legislature, state and federal courts. I mean, that's more about the business and legal community of Minneapolis, but we also have a very vibrant arts scene. This is something, a little known fact about Minneapolis is that it has art venues per capita. Only New York City has more per capita than Minneapolis. Did that make sense? So we're just second to New York City in terms of art venues per capita. So that's something we are extremely excited to share. It's an affordable cost of living, so that's very different than places on the east and west coast of the United States. We have an inclusive and diverse culture. At the University of Minnesota, we have thousands of international students from all around the world every year. I've been focusing on the law school, but our university is big. It's very huge. It's a Big Ten Division I university, and we have thousands of international students. So there's a community that you can belong to everywhere you go. And we have 7 professional sports teams in Minneapolis, and that's not including our college sports team. So I mentioned we are Division I, so the best of the best college athletes. So we have the university athletics as well as the 7 professional sports teams of Minneapolis and St. Paul. So if you are a sports fan, this is the place for you. I mentioned our vibrant arts and cultural scene a minute ago. And then I also mentioned the 4 distinct seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall, all gorgeous. So you can see the middle picture there is a real picture of our campus in the wintertime. We do have snow. We do have cold temperatures in the winter, but we always say that all you need in Minnesota to enjoy the winter is a warm coat and a good attitude. And you'll really be able to get out there and embrace it. The top picture there is a real picture of our LL.M group on the Mississippi River banks, having a picnic in the fall. And then the bottom picture is a group of our LL.M students at a Timberwolves game, Minnesota Timberwolves, our professional basketball team. And it's just really a fun place to be. Well, cost, of course, this is a very key part. As you know, it is not inexpensive to study in the United States. It's very expensive, in fact. Our tuition and fees estimated for next year is $59,400. And there's a required health insurance of $2,800 that all international students must purchase. And then the living expenses, of course, this is variable based on how you choose what kind of accommodations you choose, but we're thinking it's about $17,500 for the year. Now that's a lot of money. There's no question about that. Our tuition is really middle of the road in terms of LL.M programs in the United States. There are some that have higher tuition, and then there's some that have lower tuition, but the cost of living is much higher in those cities, like in California. So we are really middle of the road. But the good news is we have scholarships. We have a unique scholarship model here at Minnesota Law. So we do not require some additional application to apply for scholarship funds. We know that everybody needs and wants some funding to help them finance this. So 100% of our LL.M students who are admitted will be awarded a scholarship. The only exceptions is if someone is coming from a country where they're already being fully sponsored, by their home government, for example, or if they have a place of employment that's paying for it, then they will not be awarded a scholarship because they already have the money to cover it. But 99.9, I should say, percent of our students will receive a scholarship. And the scholarship typically covers 40 to 50% of the tuition and fees. So it's still a lot of money, but nothing like what we were just talking about on the previous slide, the raw numbers. So you can count on getting a very robust, significant scholarship if you are admitted to our program. And that's really it. I don't want to take too much of your time. I think studies show that 20 minutes is really the time where people's minds start to wander. So I try to stay within that time period, but I'm very open for questions. If anyone has anything, I'd love to answer.
We have had some questions come in. Now, a lot of it will be relatable to what we've already discussed and what we've been through. But I just want to recap and go through it. So I'm going to start with scholarships, because naturally everyone has been asking questions about scholarships. You mentioned it's not inexpensive to live in the United States. It's very expensive. And you are right. When you compare it to some of the webinars we've done with those in California, places in Oregon, in New York, the cost of living is huge. It's almost unaffordable in some places. That is why their tuition fees are a little bit lower, because they have to attract it somehow. Can you reiterate the scholarships again? I know you've just been through it, but 100% guaranteed success rate in terms of scholarships, 40 to 50% is what you kind of cover. But talk to me a little bit more about, what help there is away from tuition fees. So when you're living in the city, what help is there possible? What's accommodation like? Is it affordable? And the area as a whole, things, the sports teams, the art galleries you mentioned, are they expensive, and so on from there?
Absolutely. Let's go over it again in more depth. So I mentioned already that we have this unique model. So some schools do require you to do a separate application if you want to apply for the scholarship. So of course, everyone wants to do that. It's just more work for you. You've already put a lot of time and energy into your general LLM scholarship. And so we don't make you do that. We just are automatically going to consider you and award you a scholarship if you are admitted. And as I mentioned, typically it's about 40 to 50% of a tuition waiver, and we will apply that directly to your bill. So the scholarship funds don't actually come into your hands. We will give you your admission letter, and then we will state what your scholarship award is for the year. And so if you accept that, if you are admitted and you accept your admission, you're coming to Minnesota law, then we will apply that in two halves. So we'll apply the scholarship to your bill, half of it in fall semester, and then half of it in spring semester automatically. So it just reduces the total that you owe to the university. And then we'll apply it again in the third semester if you choose to do our LLM third semester program. And in terms of the cost of living here in Minneapolis, I mean, that is definitely a perk. So it's a really good value, I got to say. We are a very highly ranked law school, as I mentioned. We're in the top 25, but we are not, we need to attract the best students here to Minnesota, a place that some people have never heard of before. Even though we're a very highly ranked law school and well known in the US, we might not be well known around the world. And so someone's like, what is this? What is this Minnesota law? Top ranked, but I've never heard of Minnesota. This is kind of our way of attracting the best students to our city, to our law school. So we're a highly ranked law school, but we give a very significant scholarship, and the cost of living here is nothing like what you're going to see on one of the coasts in one of the bigger cities in the US. So just think about the value that provides to you.
Absolutely.
And so there's all sorts of different kinds of accommodations available. Our university is huge. The University of Minnesota is like a little city within our city. And there's all sorts of housing options all around the whole campus, whether it's just renting a room in someone's house, a little old lady's house that probably is the cheapest option, all the way to renting a whole house with you and your friends. You can do that too. We have apartments, we have quads, we have, where you have roommates, and that helps share the cost. There's just every option you can imagine. There's plenty of housing options for everyone here.
And sure, before we get onto the questions as well that have been asked as well, I just want to talk about the culture at the university. Presumably being one of the top 25 law schools, it's going to be quite a cosmopolitan background and quite a great place to live and to study. Do you have a huge array of international students at the law school, not just the law school, the university?
Yes, we do. So all of our LLM and exchange students every year are from another country, or they earned their first degree in law from another country. That's actually the eligibility requirement for the LLM. So we have that group of international students, which are very key to our culture here in Mondale Hall. But we also have international students in the other degree programs as well, the JD program and so on. So there's all sorts of students coming from all over in the law school. But then I mentioned our university's international student population, which is thousands every year. This university has really prized international partnerships for decades. And so we have partnerships all over the world, and we welcome students from all over the world. We send students to places all over the world through these partnerships. And so this this internationalization concept is a very key piece of the culture here at Minnesota.
Excellent. And I think that's so key as well. When you look at big cities like New York and San Francisco, Los Angeles, you can get lost sometimes. A student can come over to the USA. It's a big moment for them in their lives and their career to come over to the States, and to have students that they can relate to and talk to and share experiences with must be vital. So great point there. Now I want to go through the questions that have been asked so far before we miss any of them. I'll start with the most recent one, which is a bit of a long one, but I want to get through it. I think it's an important one. So what LLM program do you advise for someone who wants to specialize in intellectual property and technology law? Do you advise the LLM in American law with a concentration in IP and technology, or would you advise the patent law LLM?
Great question. So definitely I would advise the first thing you wrote, the general LLM with the international intellectual property and technology law concentration that I mentioned. That is one of our 11 concentrations. So that's definitely more for a general law career in that area. Whereas patent law LLM is for individuals who want to be a patent attorney, which is different than a lawyer. So they don't take the bar, the regular bar. They're not licensed the same way as a regular attorney. They will take the patent law exam and work as a patent attorney in the US. So that's really what the patent law LLM is designed to prepare people for. So I think the one that you are interested in would be the first option.
Excellent. And Lily, if you still tuned and you haven't gone away since asking that question, please head over to the website or ask Cara for further details after the session, and there'll be more info. Another question that we've had come in is, what are the requirements to transfer from an LLM to a JD? You did mention very, very early in the webinar presentation that you don't have to take an LSAT, which is key. A lot of providers don't offer that, which is great, to do your bar exam. But do you want to talk about that a little bit more, about what you need to do?
Sure. Yes. So every year we have, a number of students who decide to apply for the transfer into the JD program. And every year we have some who are admitted. Not all, it's not an automatic. It's typically kind of our highest performing LLM students who are admitted into the JD program. And so just your GPA in the LLM program is very important. That's probably the most crucial factor that JD admissions will be looking at. And there isn't some kind of, black and white cutoff, but I would say an LLM GPA of, 3.3, 3.4 or higher is kind of what they're going to be looking for. If it begins with a 2, I think you probably would not have the chance to get admitted. But, every year we have many students who have these GPAs, and so it's definitely possible, nothing you can't handle. And the other thing that they're looking at is letters of recommendation from Minnesota law faculty that you worked with when you were an LLM student. And it's not like, oh, I really like this person, but they're really going to be speaking to whether or not the LLM transfer student would be able to thrive in the JD program. And the reason there is a question there is because the LLM students in our classes are not typically included in the JD grading curve. So you probably know that the grading curve is a big deal in US law schools. It's just a very, very big deal for the JD program. And it's part of ranking, it's part of employment for JDs. It's a really big part. And it's something that students really compete with one another about in the JD program. But usually our students are not included in the JD grading curve because they're not in the JD program. So even though you're taking the same classes, you're following the same syllabus, you are held to the same standards, when it comes to the professors actually divvying out the letter grades in the class, they can give the LLM an A, even if they already had the number of A's they're allowed to give on the JD grading curve. So it's a benefit for LLM students. It allows you to have better grades probably than if you were included But because of that, once students do apply to the JD program, when they're looking at GPAs, they realize that the GPA may be considered a bit inflated, because you weren't part of the curve. And so then they're really also following up with faculty recommendation letters to speak to your ability to thrive in the JD program and be a strong student, be able to get employed as a JD afterwards, be able to pass the bar, of course. And these are all things that really the US News and World Report rankings are based on. And so we really want to make sure we're admitting students into the JD program who are going to help our ratings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think that's a really important point you've made there. So anyone that wants further clarity on that, go back on demand and watch that again and listen. It's very, very good to hear that. And also, if you've got any further questions, to ask Cara afterwards. Now, there are questions that have come in. They're all relatable to things that have already been asked and we've been through already. So if anyone's interested, please ask Cara afterwards, and when we reach out to you. I do have a couple of questions actually that I think it's important that we hear from you, especially for the podcast listeners that'll be listening to this Q&A in the future. The two intakes presumably you've got, I think you mentioned earlier on that you've got one in the winter and one in the fall, is that correct?
Actually, no, we just have one.
Just one, sorry, okay.
We did have a dual intake one year just during the COVID times when we were trying to help, when it was taking a lot longer for students to get visas and so on. But we're back to our typical way, which is just a fall entry, which is the month of August, which is not officially fall, but an August start date and a May completion date, unless someone were to stay for the third semester.
Excellent. And in terms of helping the students settle in, coming over from whatever country they've come from, how does that bedding in process take place, and what can a student typically expect when they first land in the States? And presumably there's not an airport a million miles away.
The airport is close.
And what they need to do?
Sure. So we guide you every step of the way. We have an LL.M admitted students website where we have posted, you actually have to use your University of Minnesota username and password once you've been admitted and accepted your admission to get in there. And it's just a lot of just very helpful information as you prepare. My colleague Hannah and I really take pride in giving all of our students the attention that they need and deserve. So we are like a family here. So once you get to know us, we're ready to answer any questions you have anytime. We have the airport you mentioned is very close by. It's called MSP, Minneapolis, St. Paul, MSP. And we have a light rail system that can bring you directly from the airport right to the campus area. And it's probably about a 15-minute ride. It's also can stop at the Mall of America, the largest shopping mall in the United States. We also have a stop there. So the getting to and from the airport is no big deal at all. And we do have at this university something called International Early Arrival Housing. So sometimes our students will have already arranged their housing contract before they came. They just do a virtual tour or whatever, they've already made arrangements, so they have somewhere to go directly. Others wait until they arrive and they want to be able to tour the place and kind of see for themselves. And so we have this international early arrival housing in the summertime at our university, and it's kind of like a landing pad for international students who are arriving. So a place to go right off the bat while you kind of get settled and figure out what your permanent housing situation will be. And so this is very inexpensive. It's like price of a hostel, $30 per night. And you can make reservations in advance starting around June 1st each year.
And finally, to wrap things up as well, students watching this now on demand on social media, they're very interested. We've had a few people ask about the various LLMs that you offer already. What would you suggest to them to do next if they're interested in applying or they want more information? What would be the next steps for them? Where would you suggest they go?
Well, check out our website for sure. We have a lot of information there. Needless to say, you are welcome to email me or my colleague Hannah directly anytime. We welcome that. And just apply. Applications open now. We just opened our fall 2023 application to enter the program at that time. We just opened that on October 1st, so a few weeks ago, and we will continue to accept applications until May 1st, which is kind of our hard stop. Hopefully before that, because we want to make sure you have time to get your visa appointment and everything that you need to do. But that is the deadline, and we would love to see you apply. And if you have any questions, just reach out. We are here.
Excellent. Thank you for your time, Cara. It's been a great insight into Minnesota law. If anybody has any questions, any concerns, any issues, then please reach out to us. Either Cara has put her email address in the chat facility. We will reach out to you after the session. We'll be sending you emails anyway, everyone that's signed up and registered. But a huge thank you, Cara, for making this session happen and organising, and Hannah behind the scenes as well. We look forward to seeing you again soon, hopefully next year, with many more webinars taking place and many more festivals. But for now, a huge thank you to everyone, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you
care.
all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.